Oh, and so just when you thought that these both countries were almost at the finish line, Lebanon and Israel, these Lebanese demands, the latest, get an outright no from Lapid today. So what sparked this kind of thanks but no thanks reply from him?
Well, it's either one of two things, Sarah, one or both of two things. One is the substance, right? The Lebanese demands may have been substantive and not only on the margins, the way that the Lebanese had described them, at least in some parts of their public statement, had described them as being marginal. Again, from a statement from the Prime Minister earlier today, may have been more substantive and may have been seen by the Israeli side as reopening parts of the deal that Israel thought were closed. Of course, the more important of the two is politics. Yair Lapid, I don't think he expected the kind of blowback to the announcement of this deal that he got before the Yom Kippur holiday, being attacked from former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from the right, but not only by him. Of course, that would just be a political attack inside the election campaign, but by other parts of the political spectrum and by even outsiders such as the former U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. I believe we have a soundbite of Netanyahu.
I do too. Let's take a listen to that.
Nasrallah threatened and Lapid folded. Only the heavy pressure myself and my friends exerted made him withdraw from his surrender agreement for now. Israel needs different leadership, an experienced and strong prime minister who withstands pressure and does not fold in the face of threats. We will not let Israel surrender to Nasrallah. In any case, this illegal agreement made without the approval of the Knesset will not bind us.
Well, Sarah, we're less than a month away from Election Day, so no one would be surprised, certainly not Israel's prime minister, from being attacked on a policy issue by the leader of the opposition. But I think Lapid may have been surprised by just how much traction this could potentially get, how much salience it had. Again, not only being sounded by Netanyahu, but by others even outside of Israel, again, including the former U.S. ambassador. So I think Lapid, seeing in his political interest to take a step back, not make further concessions, not open himself up to more criticism. And I think just as importantly from Lapid's perspective politically, he wants this election to again be a referendum on Netanyahu. He wants the focus to be on the persona of Benjamin Netanyahu and of all the issues that surround it. Netanyahu, by attacking Lapid on this agreement, has turned the focus of the election toward disagreement and the issues around it, right? Security, Iran, the contrast between, as Netanyahu would see it, a weak government and a strong one. Lapid wants this election to be on an entirely different set of issues. So there's a kind of opportunity cost for Lapid, the election agenda being focused in a place that Lapid doesn't want it to be focused on, and instead Lapid wanting to be able to turn the page on this, at least as a political issue, and steer the campaign back to the issues that are more part of his comfort zone. Again, as Israel again approaches another holiday week next week, Lapid will want the focus to be back where he wants the campaign focus to be and not where Netanyahu wants it to be.
But where does this leave the two nations now, Lebanon and Israel? Do they take a few steps back now? Do they come back to the negotiating table? Or is this going to completely derail talks, maybe a possible deal?
That's a nightmare scenario, right, Sarah? That this is something that is so explosive that it ends the negotiation entirely and puts the two countries back on some kind of a war footing. My best guess is that doesn't happen. There's too much at stake here. I think the Lebanese will understand the politics of this, and again, the time frame of being able to do things in November that can't be done in October. I suspect that more likely than not, the two countries, if they're not able to get to a deal, maybe the Lebanese will be able to get to a deal and step back from some of their demands. I suspect that the two countries then would take a few steps back, and this issue will stay on the public domain, come back in a month or two.
Owen, thank you so much. Our senior international affairs correspondent there with those details, Owen Alterman.